Hi there, good evening and welcome to iQuanta's channel that is dedicated to taking you into the B schools that you want to go. And I'm just trying to hide my photograph. I mean to be in the same frame as my photograph is actually a tad bit odd. So here I am taking this first session for you to answer all your queries related to the preparation of verbal ability and reading comprehension. Let me quickly change the slide so that I can move places. So it's all about CAT VARC strategy, and after that, if time permits, a bit of practice as well. And don't worry, we will go through a lot of practice moving forward. But then, those of you who have not started the preparation yet, those of you who have started the preparation but are not very sure of how to go about getting great marks in English, we'd go ahead and talk about all those things in the session today. So I'll keep on, whenever I look here, I'm basically reading your messages. Karanjeet, sir, I want 100 percentile in VARC like you. Man, absolutely. If you put in the effort, you'd definitely be able to reach there. But let's take it step by step. Let's aim at, so what is your current percentile? So let us say you're somebody who's not doing very well. Then thinking of 100 percentile straight off the bat may not be a very wise idea. So the way I look at it is that, hey, are we consistently getting 6 VARC questions right today? If yes, then let's move over to adding 2 to 3 more questions in the month ahead, and then 2 to 3 more questions in the month thereafter, and gradually over the course of 3, 4, 5 months, we will reach there. A very good evening, a very good evening. दीपांशु राय सर, आप कब से क्लास लेंगे? यार जल्दी, अब ले ही रहा हूं, देखो क्लास तो हो ही गई, right? 6 months good enough for preparation? Absolutely yes. And see, even if it is not, the only thing that you can do is to go out and give your best in these 6 months. So let's go ahead and focus on doing that. And I'm yet to meet a person who did not give, who went on to give his best and did not get results that he wanted or liked. So go ahead, put in that effort and we'll see. Okay, so let's go ahead and start with some absolute basics. You know how this entire journey starts. One fine day, you decide that, hey, I need to work. See, I don't know about you, but in my case, I don't have rich relatives, right? Otherwise, I could be sitting on Swiss Alps somewhere, sipping on some nice coffee and enjoying life. But for most of us, we need to go ahead and build a great career, and a great career would typically involve what? We want to earn money. Some of us want to earn truckloads of money. Some of us want money to rain on them in their lives, right? So we want money. Then there are quite a few of us who want status, right? And then, of course, there are some of us who want satisfaction. So at the end of the day, it is a combination of these 3 things that we all are seeking. So it's usually not just money or just status or just satisfaction. It's a combination. And that is how we start thinking in terms of our career. And in order to achieve these things, there are so many different paths that you can traverse, that you can walk on. I mean, come to think of it, you can clear the bank PO exam and start working with a bank. Or maybe go ahead and crack UPSC and work there. Perhaps you can start your own business. Maybe you can get into acting. For example, here is a question for you. Tell me. So there are various paths, but which of these 2 earned a bigger paycheck? What's your guess? यार इन दोनों में से कौन है जो ज्यादा पैसे कमा रहा था? Shoot. Is it Parag Agarwal? Remember that ex-CEO of Twitter, or is it Kapil Sharma? That it's a name that needs no introduction for most of us in North India. So let's see. Okay, so whenever I'm bending down, I'm actually reading your messages. I think I need to get binoculars, huh? Yes, Keshav, absolutely. Profile 867, general, non-engineer, female. How much percentile required for IM ABC? You 8, 6 and 7. 8 and 6. Ooh, okay. you should try and see 99.3 and above should put you in a nice little territory. Shobit will talk about these things, yes. Okay, so let's just check. Parag Agarwal got 8 crores, whereas Kapil Sharma got 35 crores. Do you know that he earns more than the CEO of Dabur? For that matter, he earns more than the CEO of Larsen and Toubro. Even more than the CEO of ITC. So acting, boss, acting has a lot of potential. Okay? But then, does that mean that, and at the end of the day, you are preparing, right? So instead of preparing for getting into the IIMs, you can go ahead and prepare to get into National School of Drama. But then there is a problem here. Life at times is a game of probabilities. When it comes to acting, there are millions who harbor those dreams. Millions, लाखों लोग जो actor बनना चाहते हैं. But there are only a handful of them who succeed and earn a really amazing payday out of it. For most of them, it is a constant grind, it is a constant struggle. And that is where these other career options, particularly MBA, comes into picture. So if I say why MBA, the whole idea is that you can move towards a career where the quality and quantity of opportunities can be significantly higher. The stability can be higher. So come to think of it, when I say quality, it is very subjective, right? And frankly, you may not even know what kind of job you want to do today. But if you get into a college, you get exposed to all the different functions of a business, you indulge in projects, internships, you are guided, and then you take a call on what is going to be a good fit for you. And even after your MBA, you can experiment a bit. And then usually you would also get a lot of jobs coming your way. Okay? But all of these things will come to you. These things don't come to you because you're doing an MBA. These things come to you when you have gone on to do your MBA from a top-notch college. So there are more than 3,600 colleges in the country that offer an accredited MBA. You get into any of those and chances are that you won't have these benefits coming your way. These benefits come to you only when you get into one of those top colleges, and that is where I think a lot of you are talking about the selection criteria, etc. I think Himanshu, what is your question? What is it? Ishan is asking, what does the 7/8/9 means? I'm sure any of you, not any of you, but most of you can answer. So can you please take up Ishan's question and help him? So it means that we want to get into top colleges. Now, how do you get into a top college? There is a selection process involved. What all do we have in that selection process? Written exam, personal interview, written ability test, plus the college may have some other things. For example, some colleges may have a group exercise or a group discussion. Some colleges may have an extempore, so on and so forth, right? And then profile. So your profile means the academic stream that you are from. You're an engineer or a commerce student or a history grad or a doctor, what? Your profile can mean your gender. Your profile can mean your academic performance. Your profile can refer to your work experience. In a couple of colleges, your profile can also refer to your co-curricular and extracurricular activities. So, in order to get into that college, you need to focus on all of these things. But in the session today, we are not going to talk about all of these things. We will go ahead and talk about written exams. So, all of us are hopefully going to write the CAT, the common admission test conducted by the IIMs, and I will very strongly recommend that all of us also go on to write XAT, XLRI, plus approximately 70 more colleges that take its score. But then there are more exams as well. For example, if you're targeting symbiosis clan of institutes, you need to write SNAP. You want to get into Narsi Monji, you need to write NMAT. Then you have CUET. Remember last year this fabulous college called TISS, Tata Institute of Social Sciences, that went on to use CUET. And then you have Maharashtra CET. You want to get into Jamnalal Bajaj Institute of Management Studies, you go ahead and write Maharashtra CET at some point of time. So these are the exams that you target. Now what do these exams test? These exams will typically test on quant, DI, logic and verbal, which is also called English or VARC depending upon which exam. But then that's not all. Some exams, for example, ZAT may also have a section on general knowledge. Then there are exams, once again ZAT, that has an entire section on decision making. So imagine, right? I've missed out on some more messages it seems. Sir, GMAT, absolutely. Luffy, I have in fact, I think I'll post a video on our YouTube channel about GMAT as well. You can go ahead and look at it. If you're targeting colleges internationally, or you're somebody with work experience and are targeting executive programs in India or colleges like ISB and Great Lakes, absolutely yes, GMAT will also be a part of the process. Yup. Okay, so that is what we have, and today I'll narrow it down even further and we'd go ahead and focus on the English part of the paper. My primary focus today is the CAT, and as we move on, I will go ahead and conduct sessions on different exams as well, the non-CAT exams as well. Rashmi, so far whatever you've shared is fabulous. You have amazing chances. Karanjeet, is it worth to get into colleges which are not in the top 10? Karanjeet, although it depends on you and your profile, but if you want to get into any of the top 25 colleges, chances are that I'd say, okay, you can go ahead and join them. You can also convince me in case I have some worries. But the moment you start going beyond the top 25, say beyond the top 30, then it involves a different metric. What I want you to focus on right now is prepare, get calls, convert those calls, and then we can sit down and talk about whether that college is worth it for you or not. So we'll cross those bridges once you reach there. मतलब तुमको छोड़ेंगे नहीं मझधार में भाई. तुम calls लाओ, convert करो, उसके बाद बैठ के बात करते ना. अभी तो college है कहाँ हाथ में. How much percentile is required for MIM? See, that program takes its admissions through the GMAT and not through, you're talking about the MIM there, that is GMAT, that's not obviously not based on the CAT. Okay, all these profile based questions, yeah, we can take them up over a Zoom call one of these days. Amisha, gap year can at times be a risky gambit for during the interviews. So if possible, work and then prepare. Somebody is asking about FMS here. FMS does not give a lot of importance to your academic background. The stages that are ahead are the ones that are going to be important. Chale, so moving back to this. Okay, so VARC in the CAT exam. So when it comes to CAT VARC, you know that it is a 40-minute section with 24 questions. 16 of these are going to be based on reading comprehension. So for the last 3 years, they've given us 4 passages with 4 questions each, and the remaining 8 questions come from verbal ability. And in fact, in the CAT, all the verbal ability questions for the last close to a decade have been, in fact more than that, have essentially been paragraph based, right? Let's look at the specific composition. So all in all, when it comes to CAT preparation, I can divide it into 5 distinct categories. You have questions based on reading comprehension, questions based on para-jumbles, paragraph odd one out, paragraph summary, and finally para completion. So this is the area, this is the domain that we are really preparing for. Okay. Now here is a question for you. Why don't you give me the answer to this? Go ahead, read this question, tell me what your answer is, A, B, C, D, what, and then we will go ahead and talk about it. So, let's see what you answer. In the interim, I can also take up some questions. Rashmi says, is there 6-month course not holier? I think I missed out some other chat. Anushka, yes, as long as it is consistent with your long-term career goals, yes, you can opt for such a one such diploma. Abhe, A, B, C, D. Don't start cooking up numbers. None of the above. Okay. That is why this session is for you, right? Reading comprehension. Comprehension particularly matters. Look at the question carefully. Did you read this? What is the minimum CAT percentile required? So if you don't get this much, they are not going to consider your application. So the minimum CAT percentile required at IIM Ahmedabad is 80. If you have less than 80 percentile, they are not even going to consider you. So in a way, that is the cutoff. Now, are you going to get a call at 80 percentile, 81 percentile, 82 percentile? No. Then, of course, what matters is your overall percentile, your ranking among all the people who have gone on to apply to IIM Ahmedabad. And there, yes, a lot of you are right. So depending upon your category and your profile, I'd normally say that, okay, if you're a general category student, you definitely need to be somebody who is 99 percentile plus. Moving further, say you are somebody who is general category engineering male, where your academic profile is good but not excellent, then chances are that you're basically looking at 99.7 percentile plus. If you want to get a call from IIM Ahmedabad, but then of course every year we see some calls which cannot be explained by this metric, but normally I think this is a nice place to start with. You want to ensure that you are in the top 1% of the country and maybe even more. Okay, so now the question is, since we are talking about 99 percentile, how many marks do you require to get a 99 percentile in VARC? How many marks do you need to score? So you know how many questions in VARC? The marks that every question carries? 3. So what are the total number of marks available in the section? Now, if you want to get a 99 percentile in VARC, how many marks do you need to get out of these 72? Oh, Sumit, I have been at a lot of places. The last place that I was at was McLeodganj, Dharamshala. फिर उसके पहले तो सब इतिहास. Sumit, that answers your question too. बिरहू की दुकान पे थे. पता नहीं यार. नहीं अरे सुश्रुता यार, we don't invent the game, we play the game. So I'm sure there are quite a few others here who are thinking of यार general category engineer, क्या पाप किया मैंने जो मेरे साथ ऐसा कर रहा है. But यार, let's not think along those lines. So I have a list of some rules for life. One of the rules in that list is never argue for your limitations. Never argue for the constraints. Your limitations are there, your constraints are there. You need to think of the best that you can do within those constraints. When you argue for those limitations, you get to keep them. You don't want to keep them, you want to grow bigger than them. So just remove all of that. यार अपने को यहाँ है, the challenge is bigger for you. But then we can either sit down and say, yaar, the challenge is so big for me and lose hope, or we can say that, okay, that's how things are. Now let us see what I can do to get selected still. So that's the attitude that I typically have. So, whoa, Sumit, thank you, man. You can continue doing that now. Shubham, this is practically my second, third day at iQuanta. We'll very soon start taking the live sessions too, hopefully within this week. I think I'm taking my first live session this Friday. So do tune in. And even this is live for that matter. Okay, so how many marks? So here is the shocker for you. I have the data for CAT 21 and 22. We actually also have data for CAT 23. We'll add it. But then for CAT 23, the data has not changed much. This is the column that we are most interested in. So in CAT 21, you needed to score 45 marks. In CAT 22, you needed to score 30.5 marks. So can I say that you need to answer 13 questions to 15 questions net correct in order to be in the top 1% of the test takers? So out of 24, 13 to 15, I'm sure you are already getting 5-6 questions right. So the question is, in the next 6 months, can we add some 8-9 more questions to our kitty so that we go ahead and reach this particular level? So things are not as tough as they appear. 13 से 15 सवाल ही करने अपने को बस, 6-8 तो तुम आज भी कर ही रहे हो. हाँ? So let's see how we reach there. So let us begin by talking about the strategy for reading comprehension. Okay? So first up, what is the challenge that you are facing in RC? What's your challenge? Bataiye. So I'll look at your challenges and then I'll try to ensure that I answer as many of them as I can during the course of the session. So, challenge. Grace, sir, how long the class will be? Yaar, jab tak tum log saath ho. As long as you're around, I would love to be here. Thank you. Anushka, missed it. Are you teaching at iQuanta? Yes. Gap year, what should you do? Nothing really. The gap year is in your past. Now you just need to work on how you justify that during the interview, how you would deal with it during the interview. Get the calls, we'll help you with the interview prep then. If I start preparation from now, can I crack? Absolutely yes, Suhani. There are no two doubts about it. Can you? Yes, you can. Inference questions का मतलब क्या होता है? Oh, यश, आज एक मैंने introduce भी किया inference question. बात कर लेंगे उसकी. Understanding, main idea questions, vocabulary problems, deep meaning. Yeah, you guys are sending so many messages that I'm actually struggling to read the chat. Tricky questions, main idea, difficult passage, difficult in comprehension, complex RCs, difficult vocab, eliminating options, inferences. Okay, I'll go ahead and answer these. I think I have a fair bit of sample today. Speed reading too. So two of you are also talking about speed reading. Vashine says full class will be in English, right? Yes. When somebody asks me a question in Hindi, I reply in Hindi. I am very fluent in Hindi, English, Punjabi and sarcasm. So these are the 4 languages that I can employ. Speed reading, retention. Okay, so I'll go ahead and talk about these things briefly and maybe we can go ahead and, oh, RC is my strength, fabulous. Yeah, you know what I mean. That's one message that is lovely to see. Okay, so what are the challenges that we face in RC? And forget the challenges in RC. My screen has gone blank, so I think I need to just see. ये sleep mode में कैसे चला गया भाई? Okay, so it is getting rebooted, but unless it gets rebooted, भोजपुरी नहीं यार, भोजपुरी तो दोस्त मुझे नहीं आती. आप सिखाइएगा तो tone, okay. Bad academic, can I get a call from Ahmedabad? Shekhar, can you? Yes, you can, but the probability will be on the lower side. Saho, yes, Saho, you are right. Weaken, okay. Cannot apprehend. Oh, Nigita, somebody who writes apprehend instead of comprehend, that person should not face such an issue. Thank you, man. Thank you, PW. How to maintain focus. That is something that we can talk about later. Okay, so let's just see where we can get the PBD from. Okay, so coming back to this now, I've been teaching for donkey's years. Yeah, this is my 24th year of helping CAT aspirants get into OB school. The challenges that I have generally seen are what happened? Why am I getting all these extra pop-ups here today? I don't even know what this is. Just give me a second and I'll see where I can get it from. Just a sec, I'll just need some tech help and I'll join you very soon. Okay, so until we fix that on, I can go ahead and start talking about it. So, in my last 24 years, I've seen that there are I'm not able to click anywhere on this. I don't know why. Is this the pointer or something? Are we supposed to get this here? So typically, one of the problems that I have often seen people make is that they do not even know what to do in RCs. So remember back in the school days, लगा दीजिए कोई बात नहीं, तब तक मैं हूँ, कर लेंगे, साथ साथ मैनेज हो जाएगा, नहीं करें? So we've all gone through unseen passages and we somehow feel that an unseen passage is all about reading what is given to you in the exam and then answering. We've never been taught how we can go on to become better. Audio भी नहीं आ रहा क्या? हाँ? Okay, so my screen is blank because I'm facing some issues in my display, but that will be fixed really very soon. Don't worry. Until then, do keep on telling me in the chat what it is that you are facing the biggest challenge in. I can go ahead, read those, and I'll ensure that I accommodate that in the session ahead. So one of the biggest challenges that I've seen people face is they don't even know what they need to do in RCs. A lot of people think that it is all about practicing passages. So they'd continue to go after, keep on attempting passage after passage after passage. And then they come back to us and then they tell us that, they are not making progress. So the deal is, every question that we get in RC asks us for or requires a particular ability, right? So if you have that ability, you'll be able to answer that question correctly. On the other hand, if you don't have that ability, chances are that you'd end up getting it wrong. So every mistake that we make is a feedback that we get that we are missing out on some ability, right? So we need to go ahead and acquire those abilities, but most of us have not even done that mapping yet. Sachin ji, can we make this bigger, the chat bigger? ये chat वाला part किसी तरह बड़ा कर सकते हैं? मैं नहीं तो बहुत पास जाके देखना पड़ रहा है मुझे, अगर कोई possibility है तो देख लीजिएगा. हाँ. Oh yes, that should do. इसे थोड़ा पुल कर लूँ, बड़ा कर सकते हैं ना इसे, खींच के नहीं हुआ, अच्छा चलिए, दैट शुड डू, इतने से भी चल जाना चाहिए. So all in all, I think I can break it down into 4 core challenges. Challenge number 1, we do not even know what we need to do in order to become better in RCs. Or in other words, we don't know the syllabus of RC. So come to think of it, if I ask you for what all you need to do in quant, you'd be able to rattle off a list. Can you rattle off that same list in RCs? So that's one. Number 2, there are times when you're not familiar with the subject matter of the passage. You know, topic, philosophy, psychology, politics, what? So some of those passages can turn out to be very tricky for you. So that can be another challenge. And the third challenge can be that the question itself is confusing. And finally, the last challenge is close answer choices. So we at times do not know how we can deal with those options, those close looking options, and that can act as a bit of a bottleneck in getting a great score, right? So let's look at each one of these 4 things one by one. So the very first thing is RC syllabus. So moving back to that analogy, if you want to become better at quant, what do? You just need to open up your book given to you by iQuanta, look at the index, and you'd notice all those chapters along with the subheadings that you need to master. So you look at it and you say that, oh, when it comes to quant, I need to go ahead and master these 80 odd chapters and I'm done. Isn't it? But do you know something similar for RC? Do you know what or how many things you need to go ahead and master? So that's one. So let's go ahead and have a look at the syllabus first. So when it comes to RC, you need to master 8 things. I've written down 7 of them here, and I'll talk about the 8th after those 7. So number 1, increase your reading speed. It's reasonably important for an exam like the CAT. It is very important for some of those other exams that you're going to write. For example, NMAT. Right? Maharashtra CET. Look at the equation there. Look at the total number of questions and the total number of minutes given to you, and you'd realize. So one of the things that you may need to work on is increasing your reading speed. Then number 2, you want to enhance your level of comprehension further. So if your accuracy rate is low, particularly in comprehension based questions, okay, then that's a very clear-cut indicator that you need to work on enhancing that further. Number 3, you would want to improve your retention. So what retention here means is that you've read a passage, and when you go to the questions, do you have the overview of the passage in your mind so that you are able to go back to the right area or the relevant part? If yes, then great. If no, then you may end up spending a lot of time unnecessarily. You may end up referencing wrong areas, and because of that you may end up getting the passage wrong. So obviously these 3 are very important. Now I will add one more thing here, and that is these 3 things are skills. And we all know that skills improve through structured practice. Think of any skill. Let's say you want to become a better singer. What do you need to do? You need to practice. Remember रियाज. रियाज करना पड़ता है ना, खरज लगानी पड़ती है, notes set करने पड़ते हैं. So if you want to become better at skills, you need to practice in a structured manner. If you're not doing them, if you're not doing that practice, chances are that you would not become better at these skills. But thereafter, you need to understand different question types that get asked in RCs. You need to learn to eliminate close answer choices. In an exam, you need to fine-tune your approach towards RC passages. Here, let me ask you this question. When you attempt a passage, what should you read first? The passage or the questions? We should read the passage first, or we should read the questions first? What's your take? So you see that? So that's what power of, what's happening? Hang on, I think I've lost the screen once again. So I will once again rely on the tech help. So, okay, I think my screen has gone blank once again. So we are trying to fix that. In the interim, be with me. I'll keep talking about these things. So the question that I asked you was, read the passage first or read the questions first. A lot of you are already preparing with us, and you guys are amazing. Questions first, passage first. So you need to read. Mostly, you need to read the passage first. There are some specific scenarios where I may advise you to read the questions first. So you realize, so that is one understanding that you need to have. And if you don't have that understanding, that things can be a bit of a challenge. Okay, so that is there. Then the seventh thing that you need to learn in RC is passage prioritization. So, in an exam, you don't have just one passage to attempt. You get somewhere between 4 to 6 passages depending upon which exam it is. So in the CAT, let us say there are 4 passages, right? Now, will you be able to attempt all the 4 passages? Stay with me in the chat. Will you be able to attempt all the 4 passages? Yes, the screen is black or blank because here I'm facing some issues with the display. But as long as the audio is there, you can just listen in, and we'll try to make the best of it. So the answer to the question, will I be able to attempt, will you be attempting all the 4 passages? The answer is, I don't know. It depends on the exam, right? So there is a possibility that you may run out of time. There is a possibility that you may run out of time before you have attempted all the questions, right? And therefore, you would want to start with questions which are easy for you and move towards questions which are difficult. So if you want to go from easy to difficult questions, then that's equally true for RCs, and therefore you want to prioritize the passages. Even before you start attempting them, you'd want to figure out the order in which you want to take on those passages. Otherwise, you may end up attempting the difficult ones and miss out on the easy ones. So these are the core 7 things that belong exclusively to RC. And then there are certain things, certain areas that depend on critical reasoning. So you remember there are exams like XAT. In XAT, or in NMAT for that matter, they ask us direct paragraph-based critical reasoning questions, right? But what the CAT has done is that for the last 10 years or so, they have integrated CR with RC. So in the last decade or so, a lot of questions in the reading comprehension section, they look like RC, but in reality they are CR. So they're disguised critical reasoning questions. You remember coming across a question which says, which of the following can be inferred from the passage? Have you seen a question which asks you to strengthen something or weaken something? You have, haven't you? Have you seen a question which asks you for what has been assumed by the author? All of these are critical reasoning questions. All of these are critical reasoning questions that are disguised as reading comprehension. Right? So, if you want to ace all of these questions, if you want to excel at all of these questions, you would do well to master this eighth and the last thing called critical reasoning. Right? So I'll write it manually here, and hopefully you will be able to see me on the screen soon. In fact, let me throw some stats at you. If I look at the last 5 to 6 years of the exam, and we're back, right? So it's good to have the video going live too. So roughly 1/3 of the questions in reading comprehension are actually driven by critical reasoning. 1/3. And the trend is only increasing. In fact, in CAT 22, in slot 1, almost 2/3 of the questions, 66% of the questions were disguised critical reasoning. If I talk about CAT 23, the number would be around 40%. So this is one of those things which is not per se RC, but contributes heavily to the CAT RC, and therefore you need to go ahead and excel at it for sure. So all in all, the seventh thing that is passage prioritization. So if anybody asks you about the syllabus, now you know that these are the 8 things that you need to master. And if you are not able to score well in RCs, if you're not where you want to be, chances are that you are missing out on one of these 8 things. Fix these 8 and you should feel utterly comfortable with RCs. So that's what we really have here. So any questions from this? Any questions so far? Let me read the messages too. Kriti, how can we determine which RC is difficult and which RC is easy? Okay, so you're talking about passage prioritization, right? Let's talk about it. So what is easy and what is difficult depends on you. It is subjective, okay? But there are 2 things that you can look for. The first is the subject matter of the passage. Does the passage belong to an area that you are comfortable with? And number 2, the language used by the passage, right? It's a function of these 2 things. So what I typically do is I read the first sentence of every paragraph to take a call on these 2 things. And then I decide how easy or difficult the passage is. Okay? 6th one, approaches, passage first or questions first. We'll go ahead and talk about it. So here is the syllabus. So please realize that you need to become excellent at these 8 things. If there is some scope of improvement in any of these 8 things, then it will reflect in your accuracy rates. Okay. Now the second thing was the subject matter. So remember, challenge number 1, we don't even know what we are supposed to do. Challenge number 2, hey, there are times when we find passages very difficult. So the subject matter or the topic that the passage talks about to be very challenging. So the deal is, what is a strategy? What do we do so that this stops being an issue for us? What do we do so that the topics stop bothering us? So the strategy is very simple. So the moment I say strategy, a lot of you will be like, oh yes, tell me. So I'll say, the strategy is read. And not just read, in most of the cases it is read more. And I'm sure at this juncture your expression has changed. पढ़ने को बोल रहे हो, वो भी बोल रहे हो ज़्यादा पढ़ूं, ओहो, अरे. Not only this, I am actually saying that, hey, you need to read diverse. So I am saying that your reading should be extensive and eclectic, and I know that a lot of you probably right now look like this. कि भाई ये तो मुझे पता ही था, कुछ और बताओ जिससे मुझे काम ना करना पड़े ना. I already knew these things. Tell me something that makes my life easy. अरे, I can tell you what is going to make your life easy as well. So let us see. let me make it all very concise for you. I do not want you to spend a minute extra on studying than what is needed. So the question then is, okay, so what to read? So normally the questions that I get is, people ask me, okay, read more, read diverse, great, but then can you tell me what I should read? Can you tell me from where should I read, from where I should read all those things, and how much reading do you want me to do? So I'll address all the three questions in this session today. So what should you read? What should you read? You should read those areas that the IIMs ask you. I mean, it makes sense, right? Pick up those subject matters from which the IIMs are creating passages. So, what are those areas? Here is the analysis of where different passages have come from. So, what do you see? I want you to focus on the rightmost column. So the highest percentage is 24.07, but it says others, so ignore it. What is the next highest? Dude, sociology and anthropology. So if you are not comfortable with sociology and anthropology, that has to be your number one area. These are the areas that you would like to start with. Okay, then the next, science and technology. If you're not comfortable with these, you want to become good at these. Then off late, and this is an analysis of the last 6 years of the CAT exam, and you notice there are a lot of passages that come from biology, particularly zoology, and quite a few passages on ecology and environment as well. Then what do you have? You have passages on history and you have passages on philosophy and psychology. So there you go. Sociology, anthropology, science and tech, biology, history, philosophy, psychology. There you go. These are the top few areas. Otherwise, the passage can actually come from anywhere. I have seen a CAT exam where they converted an obituary into a passage. I have seen an exam where they gave a movie review as a passage. I have seen an exam where they talked about wine. I have seen an exam where they talk about the development of language, whatever. Pretty eclectic mix. But if I have to pick up some of the most dominant ones, then these are those areas. Anthropology is the subject that talks about this, where we study mankind. Evolution of mankind, society, religion, how we grow, and all those things. Culture, pretty broad area actually. In case you need more clarity, I can go ahead and make some more videos for you talking about each one of these things, each one of these aspects, so that you can go ahead and become even better. Okay, so Shivam and others, if you need those, please make sure that you tell me in the comments so that I know that you want those and I can go ahead and creating it. And if you're enjoying the session, even though we've of course faced some technical issues today, life happens to all of us, अब क्या करें यार, हो जाता है ना, but थोड़ा हौसला आप भी बनाए रखें और मेरा भी बनाए रखें, थोड़ा likes ही दे दें यार सेशन को, so that I get motivated. I will go ahead and talk about that, Sangamitra. So read these areas. Okay, then the next question was, from where should I read? Well, once again, my answer is read those places from which the IIMs form passages. So the places that your test setter, paper setter is, the areas that your paper setter is reading are exactly the areas that you want to read. So here is an analysis of the sources. So you notice that a lot of passages have been taken from books. This does not involve last year, but then if I look at the last, say, 7-8 years, you'd see a lot of passages have been taken from articles published in the New York Times. Quite a few of them have been from Eon Essays, The Guardian, Smithsonian, Time, Atlantic, Economist, Scientific American, which I could not fit here. So you want to read these places, right? So from where do you read? Well, read long form articles from these 4 places: the New York Times, The Guardian, Eon, and Smithsonian. You can also go ahead and add things like Scientific American, etc. to it, Economist to it. Right? And apart from long form articles, you would like to read books as well. But the moment I say books, I know that quite a few of you will suddenly be taken aback and you'd have questions. Questions like, sir, should I read books? I've only 6 months. I have so much to study. What do you mean by reading books? Have you seen books? They are this thick. And you want me to read those? Well, hang on. I don't want you to read books. I'm saying that's one of the things that the IIMs create passages from. And therefore, you may want to look at them. May. So when do you need to read books? So ideally, now there are two ways of looking at it. Way number one is that because IIMs ask us passages from all those different areas, those diverse areas, they are looking for people who are comfortable with all those different areas, isn't it? So ideally, yeah, you want to be somebody who is well read, but then let's be a little more practical, let us be a little more pragmatic. Okay? So there are two types of subject matters. Okay, so there are subjects that have a lot of jargon, that have their own specialized vocabulary, their own technical vocabulary. And there are areas that do not have their own specialized vocabulary. Let's take examples. So for instance, when I say philosophy, when I say art, when I say biology, you realize these are areas that have their own specialized vocabulary. So when it comes to these areas, if you're not familiar with them, it is useful to read an introductory text, a basic book of these things. On the other hand, when I talk about areas like sociology that do not have much of a jargon, you can read articles and still do well. So you won't have to worry much. So at the end of the day, it is your call. If you are consistently underperforming in the passages of a particular subject matter, let us say it is philosophy, let us say, you consistently underperforming and you know that philosophy based passages get asked a lot in the exam, then you do well reading a book, an introductory text on philosophy. Okay? On the other hand, if you're not consistently underperforming, it happens only sporadically, or you are underperforming in a subject matter which does not get asked much, then I think you can stick to articles as well. Philosophy ke liye kya kare? Okay. So here is a book recommendation. You can read this book called Sophie's World by Jostian Gardier. Read that. And if you want a book club, let us know and we'd start a book club where we can start reading these things together. And even there, don't worry, you don't need to read the entire book. I'm saying if you think that you don't have time, read half a book and then quit. No, leave it in between. Who asks you to reach the last page, reach the last section? So imagine if you're weak at philosophy, you're not very comfortable with it. If you read even 100 pages of philosophy, a book may have 300 pages. I'm saying you read just 100. Then even those 100 pages are going to make you better, no? So put in at least that much of an effort, right? Sir, comprehension kaise badhaye? Yes, it is a skill. So the first thing is you need to read more. And then there are some specialized techniques that I can eventually share. The other thing that people at times ask me is that, sir, I'm not at all into reading. So can you recommend some books to me so that I can get into reading? So normally what I recommend is this. So if you're an absolute beginner, read these 6 books in this particular order. Read these 6 in this particular order. What books about sociology and anthropology? I'd go ahead and talk about each one of these things. I can keep on creating. NYT is free or paid? Sangamitra, I think it is paid, but you know how to read articles behind a paywall, no? You don't. लाइव सेशन जा रहा है यार ऑफिशियल चैनल पे, मैं पब्लिकली कुछ चीज़ें बता नहीं सकता, बट तुम्हें पता है ना, यू नो हाउ टू रीड आर्टिकल्स बिहाइंड अ पेवॉल. We can probably talk about it in a private group, sir. Join them if you're not there. Okay, so once again, there's a list for beginners. If you're not a beginner, ignore it. In case you haven't read any of these, you're a reader, you haven't read any of these, feel more than free to read it. And if you want recommendations from me, then tell me what you've read. So once I've gone through that, I can go ahead and make some recommendations. And I see that you're asking me about different areas and books. Confusion between fiction and non-fiction. Keshav, for an exam like the CAT, you want to become very comfortable, super comfortable with non-fiction. So eventually the goal is to be comfortable with non-fiction. You may choose to start with fiction, but we want to reach there. Retention कैसे increase करें? यार इस पे एक काम करते हैं, मेन आइडिया क्वेश्चंस की जब मैं बात करता हूँ ना तो मैं बताता हूँ उसमें कैसे इंक्रीज करते हैं इसको. स्किल है, एक खास तरह की प्रैक्टिस है यार, वो करनी पड़ेगी. करेंगे तो होने लग जाएगा. करते हैं, लेट्स सी, करते हैं कुछ उसके लिए भी. Okay, so that's a bit on reading, and then there were two more things that I haven't talked about, so I'll go ahead and address them here. And they are, the third challenge that we had was, understand all these different question types. ये जो अलग अलग question types आते हैं, यार इन सब question types से ही थोड़े comfortable हो जाओ. So all in all, in RC, we actually get 20 different question types. Just 20. You can think of those 20 question types as 20 chapters that you need to master. So there are two types that a lot of you asked, a lot of you wrote down in the chat. So let's go ahead and talk about those. So those two things are main idea questions, and the other one that was mentioned was inference based questions. So first up, let us look at the ability that is required by both of these questions one by one. So in a main idea question, the ability that you need is the ability to generate an overview of the passage. So when you read a passage, are you able to have that bird's eye view in your mind? Are you able to take out the key idea of every paragraph and then keep that in your mind? Because if you're not able to do that, then chances are that you will struggle. And here is a tip that I am giving to you today so that your accuracy rate increases. Since you are here, I think I need to give you something so that your accuracy rate shoots up immediately. Whenever you see a main idea question, before you move over to the answer choices, ask two things. Ask yourself two things. The two things are, number one, what is this passage about? What's the topic of the passage? What does it talk about? So what is the passage about? And number two, what is the purpose of the author while writing this passage? Combine the answers to those two questions and you'll have your main idea. And when you have that main idea in your mind, then go to the options and then see if you're able to choose the right one. Okay? How can I know about RC question pattern? So Solomon, I think what you're asking is, how do I know what these 20 types are? Yeah, work with me, no? We are in fact launching our batch 2 here at iQuanta very soon. You want to learn about each one of these 20 question types, thoroughly join me. Okay, and then the second thing, inference based questions. So see, what do you understand by an inference? An inference is a conclusion. So you remember that there is something called premises, there is something called conclusions. You have some reasons, and on the basis of those reasons you arrive at a conclusion. So an inference is a conclusion. Now again, a tip for you here. So in every inference based question, the answer choices claim to be a valid conclusion based on the information given by the passage. Your job is to check that claim. It's like interview. When we go to the interview, each one of us, when we face the interview, we tell them that, hey, I am an excellent candidate. The interviewer's job is to check whether we are excellent or not. Similarly, every answer choice tells you, hey, I am valid, I am valid, I am valid. Your job is to check whether it is indeed valid or not. So when it comes to conclusions, conclusions are of three types on the basis of the premises. A conclusion can be true, a conclusion can be false, a conclusion can be can't say. True, false, can't say. Right? So go to every answer choice and apply one of these three labels. Is it true on the basis of the passage? Is it false? Is it can't say? Do that and choose the one which is true as your answer. So that's the approach that I want you to follow. यश बोल रहा है बैच 3 यार बैच 3 तो भाई क्रैश कोर्स होगा. I don't think I'd recommend that to you today. Okay? सर पैसेजेस एंड बुक्स दोनों रीड करनी इज अ गुड ऑप्शन. एब्सोल्युटली यस यार, वो तो पैसेजेस तो साथ साथ करने ही है बाबा, पैसेज तो करेंगे. इज इट कंपल्सरी टू रीड इयॉन यार? इफ यू, I personally do go to Eon essays. Is it mandatory? No, as long as you getting your fill of philosophy, psychology, etc. You can do without it, but care. So inference-based questions. I've told you what it is. I've told you the basic approach. Of course, there is a development of skill. There are more things that I can add in terms of how you go ahead and eliminate options. We can go ahead and talk about that. Okay, so that's about question types. And then the next problem that we talked about was how do we eliminate. So let me give you one example. Main idea questions, right? Now in a main idea question, you have different types of answer choices. Okay, so there is an answer choice which is right, and there are these answer choices that are wrong. Now, how are these wrong answer choices created? Your wrong answer choice can be narrow, it can be broad, it can be alien or out of scope, it can be contradictory. So you have 4 options, one is right, the other 3 belong to these different categories. So you need to learn to identify these categories and eliminate them. So what is a narrow answer choice? A narrow answer choice gives you the key idea of only a part of the passage, not the entire passage. What is broad? Broad is something that goes beyond the scope of the passage. The passage will be a part of it, but then it will cover other things as well. Alien, out of scope, it talks about things which are not even there in the passage. Contradictory, I don't need to explain. So, one of the things that I use to eliminate close answer choices, in main idea questions, one of the things that I use, of course there are other things, I use the 180-degree approach. And once again, now that you are here, as I said, I need to help you get the questions right more often than not. So what is 180-degree approach? So right now I'm facing you. If I turn by 180 degrees, I'll be facing the board, right? So 180 degrees is a U-turn. 180 degrees is a U-turn. So give U-turn to your thoughts. What is your normal thought process? You read a passage, you go to the questions and you're thinking, hey, is this the main idea of the passage that I've just read? Now give it a U-turn. Now when you read that option, think, yaar, this option is a main idea of some passage. What kind of passage will that be? Or in other words, treat that answer choice as an essay topic given to you. And then think, if you were to write an essay using this as a topic, what all would you cover in that essay? And after that, you can go ahead and match it with the passage that you've just read. Go ahead, match it. If the passage matches, it's your answer. If not, you'd be able to eliminate it. So I'll demonstrate it in some sessions moving forward. आज तो बहुत broad हो गया ना VARC strategy, तो थोड़ा broadly बात कर रहे हैं. So that's how you can. So these are the 4 core challenges, and see, you can understand the right approach for each one of those 20 question types. How do you eliminate options? Well, that depends on that question type, but in every question type there is a way, there is a thing that helps you reach that right answer. Okay, so that's how you would go ahead and reach that. In fact, we'll also have, I can add one more to the list here. Remember, you have those generalized options, or as we say, extreme options at times. So they also make me suspicious of their veracity. So that's how we'd go ahead and look at this. So that's a bit on RC. Now let us talk about, okay, so we have how do you deal with different question types. So there are very few direct questions in the exam. Quite a few of the questions are main idea questions, a whole lot of reasoning based questions. So for each one of these 20 question types, please make sure that you understand each one of these and you learn elimination strategies for each one of these 20 types. Right? And then, of course, it goes without saying that you also need to consistently practice RC passages. How many? If you are just about starting, then I want you to maintain this rhythm of 10 passages every week. To begin with, 10 passages every week. But if you are not starting, if it has been a while, then you need to increase this number further. And even in this 10 passages a week, I would like to add a little more. So for 6 days in the week, you want to attempt one passage in that day. But for 1 day a week, I want you to attempt 4 passages in a single seating. Okay, so 1 day a week, 4 passages in a single seating. Ishan, iQuanta gives us articles to read every day. Yeah, absolutely, Ishan. Yes, we not only give you articles every day, we've actually compiled a lot of articles. We share a lot of links with you, where we have segregated them by subject matter as well. So you can make use of that list and read more of the articles from those areas, those topics that bother you. So absolutely yes. What about batch 1 students? Vyom, I will be taking sessions for batch 1 as well. Yeah? I think I'm taking one this Friday. Grace. Grace, you asked this a little while ago, no? Or maybe it was somebody else. When will the session be over? I don't know when you guys asked me to. Well, let's see. Let's cover the topics first. So that's for RC. And then moving on. So now let's talk about the strategy for verbal ability. So when it comes to verbal ability, we basically get 4 paragraph based questions in the CAT exam. The most well known is parajumbles. Then you have this question where they give us 5 sentences. One of them does not belong to that paragraph and they ask us to choose that paragraph odd sentence out question. Yes, 4 passages in a single sitting. It's not that you attempt 2 passages, then take a break and then 2. No, 4 in a single sitting. Luffy, when Prashant sir say this, that's for people who are already at an advanced level. That's why I prefaced it. I said, yeah, if you're somebody who's starting your preparation, if you're not starting your preparation, you have already started it, then of course you need to go ahead and increase the number of questions that you solve. But apart from that, I'll probably add something towards the end and then we can come back to this number. So, third, summary of the paragraph, and fourth and the last, para completion. So, you know that in 22, the CAT exam replaced odd one out questions with a special type of para completion where they gave us a sentence, then a paragraph with 4 blanks. We needed to figure out which one of those 4 blanks is the most suitable one for the sentence that is given to us. So that variety of para completion. So when it comes to verbal ability of the kind that you get in the CAT, the truth is the skill and the knowledge required to answer these correctly, they are given to you in reasoning and comprehension. A bit of that also comes from vocabulary and grammar. So in reality, what you need to do is, you need to learn 2 new things. You need to maybe focus a little more on your ability to write, which is technically called composition, and you need to learn the right technique to solve these questions. So my suggestion would typically be that, okay, read, because reading would obviously help with that comprehension part. But then this is something that you're already doing for RCs, so you don't need to do it again. Now sharpen your composition skills, that is writing skills. At the end of the day, when you look at why we have all these paragraph-based questions, the answer is the IIMs want people who are decent at writing, because that is a skill that you need extensively later. Now writing cannot be tested in a multiple choice question format, and that is why they rely on all these other paragraph based questions. So even if you write half a page a day, I'm saying even if that appears too much for you, how about sitting down and writing 5 minutes a day? You pretty soon see that you are becoming better at it. And apart from that, please make sure that you go on to practice these questions regularly. Okay, so make sure that you practice these questions regularly. So that's basically the goal. So let's summarize the key essence of what I have shared with you. RC plan. So this part, somebody said 10 passages a day, 10 passages a week, what should we do? There's a number. See, at the end of the day, tell me something. Let us say that you are getting the inference-based question wrong. What does it mean? It means that you are not able to figure out whether a conclusion is true or false or can't say. Right? Now, if you're not able to figure that out, if you don't have that ability, what will happen if you keep practicing passages? So you're solving 2 passages and you're making some mistakes in inference-based questions. So from 2, you move over to 10 passages every day. So the number of mistakes that you make will also become 5 times as much. So 2 inference-based mistakes in 2 passages. Now you start doing 10 passages. So you'd make 10 mistakes in inference-based questions. And then you'd be wondering, yaar, maine to practice bhi badha di, kya hua? Yaar, ye ability bhi to lani hai. So get that ability going, get that feedback, fix this particular question type, and then move on. Then you'd like to, so you increase the number of passages that you practice progressively as you become better at RCs, as you become better at different question types. So you increase it so that you still make sufficient number of mistakes to learn from them. Otherwise, you would stop learning. Okay? So, please make sure that you diagnose the problem. Always look at your mistakes and see, is there a pattern? Is there a particular question type where you repeatedly go wrong? Then it means that you need to work on the corresponding ability. Do you often end up making mistakes in passages that belong to a particular area? If yes, then you need to develop familiarity with that area. That's how you improve. That's how you go on to become better. And similarly, when it comes to VA, start writing, treat each one of these 4 question types as a chapter and master these in this order. Start off by mastering para summary, then move over to para jumbles, then odd one out, and lastly, finally to para completion. And ideally, I'd say that why don't you devote 14 days to each question type? And in these 14 days, you'd want to attempt at least 5 questions every day. So at the end of those 14 days, ask yourself, am I getting 70% or more of these questions right? If yes, move over to the next question type. If not, scale back. Give it another week and then move on. Can you suggest a good book for RC practice? Yaar, ye iQuanta mein bahut de rahe yaar. At iQuanta, we give you tons of practice. I'm sure you're part of the different forums that we have. Join us there, and then hopefully that will give you adequate practice. So that's about verbal ability. Okay, and with that, in case you're still confused, you know where to get this from or how to do this. So once again, we have an entire dedicated course with tons of features, an amazing set of faculty members involved, and there is plenty of practice, right? We are the only ones who are actually giving you topic-wise practice even in RC. So when you work with me, when you work with us, so it's not that we just teach you about main idea question. I'd say that, okay, why not go ahead and answer 50 main idea questions, practice 50 main idea questions to see whether we have gotten a hang of this or not, and then move on. Okay? So you can join us, and that's probably going to be very easy for you. So let's practice a bit. So here is a passage, and I'm telling you, here's a passage. The next slide has a main idea question. So please read it. And once you're done reading it, I'll take you over to the question, which will have a main idea question. I've already told that to you. So I won't bring you back to the passage. I want you to take out that main idea before you move over to the next, before I take you over to the next slide. So go ahead, read, and then we'll see. Shoot. Star HLP, you're talking about the course? No, the course is not free, but if you want to get the details, you can look at the links given below. They should help. Ishan, absolutely, yeah. You can read long form articles, you can go through practice passages. We have in fact given, we have some curated reading lists on our website. Make use of those things, make use of those tools. Ideal time allotment. Shobit, there is no ideal time allotment, yeah. All of us have different strengths and weaknesses. Moreover, the kind of exam that we see, the kind of questions that we see in that section would also have a say in that, no? So I can tell you how I approach it once we are done with this question, and then we'll see. Okay, so here is the question. What's your answer? A, B, C, D. What's your take? Okay, LA, Ishan, Shavi, Luffy, Manshi, fabulous guys, absolutely yes, the correct answer is indeed C. See, these are early days, okay, I have just about started working with you. So I am in a way building a ladder where I'll progressively use different question types, different levels, with the solitary purpose to see whether you can understand these or not. I'm also getting A's and B's as well. The use of antibiotics is uncontrollable. The antibiotics do not work miracles. Is that the main point? Remember I told you 180-degree approach? Use it on B and tell me whether that works. And when it comes to A, let's go back. In the past 50 years, doctors across the world have accepted the practice to prescribe antibiotics at the first sign of a trivial infection. These days, it is not uncommon to see practitioners prescribing multiple antibiotics. They have traditionally been known as miracle drugs, but there is growing evidence that they are overworked miracles. You notice, especially in countries like ours, where there is easy access to drugs across the counter, including antibiotics. We cannot think of a return to pre-antibiotic days, yet the unbridled, so we do have unbridled, which basically means uncontrolled. Unbridled use of these agents is inexorably propelling us in that right direction. So inexorably is something from which it is difficult to come back. It's pushing us towards that direction. Which direction? Overuse of antibiotics. And that is what makes, that's why A, the use of antibiotics is uncontrollable. No, it can be controlled. But then what is uncontrollable? Unbridled use of antibiotics by people and doctors. It is being used in an uncontrollable way. It does not mean that it is uncontrollable. So you notice that subtle distortion here. So we have that problem. That's why C. Okay, with that, let's move over to passage 2. Now I will take you through passage 2 paragraph by paragraph. So the moment you're done reading it, let me know so that I can take you over to the next one. Let's shoot. Next. Taking you to the next slide in 10 seconds. What is manifest? So there are times when you make something happen by constantly imagining it, by constantly thinking it will happen, you make that happen for real. So that's manifest. Sangamitra. I mean, if you're not able to understand any part of the message, keep it in your mind. Once we are done with the questions, you can always bring me back and ask. In fact, you can ask it right away too, I can help you. Although that would mean that the process of your attempting the questions will be contaminated a bit. Okay, next. Okay, next. So this is the second last paragraph. Oh, fantastic, Dia. It's a good book. It'll give you almost 700-800 words in a very interesting and easy to retain fashion. Just make sure that you are through with this book in say around 30-35 days. It has 47 sessions. So 1 to 2 sessions a day. That's the rate at which you want to work with it. Okay, here is the next and the last paragraph. So something like a career or a job or something equally important. Okay, so shall I? Here is the first question based on this passage, but then the issue here will be, when you look at this, you may wonder, yeah, how do I refer to the passage? So let me make this easy for you. I'll request somebody from my team to share the passage with you. Just give me a quick second, I'll get it done. So we can drop in a Google Drive link in the chat. We'll drop a Google Drive link in the chat which will have the passage available to you. You can read that and answer the questions. Anybody from the team here, if you're listening, can you please drop in the link for the Google Doc in the chat and maybe pin it as a and perhaps pin the comment? Oh, Tanisha, it's quite, this is the, so I created this passage from Ion essays. I found that very interesting and I thought that, hey, why let go of it? I'm glad that you liked it. So here is the first question. I'll just get the link shared with you soon. So what is the primary purpose of the passage? You can always use, I mean, it's YouTube, right? So you can always use the seeker to go back to the passage and answer it. As an added feature, I can get it done too. Monisha, possible. I mean, so many of us reading Ion essays. Yeah, I know. I find somebody or the other who has read that same article. So, primary purpose of the passage. So primary purpose is also more or less a main idea question. Quite a few of us are choosing C. But see, to argue that in opposition to its criticism, the great regression reflects a beneficial trend. Oops, sorry. The great regression reflects a beneficial trend. Great regression is that can redefine what it means to lead an adult life. Okay, then I've gotten B. So let us start comparing, okay, B versus C. What is the difference? To argue that the great regression can be nourishing, yes, and to highlight the flaws in the reasoning of its critics, great. C, to argue that in opposition to its criticism, the great regression reflects a beneficial trend that can redefine what it means to lead an adult life. Where is this given? So what is the difference here? The core is, in both of them, one part is the same, that the author is going against the critics of great regression, people treating of themselves as children. And B says the author does that by highlighting the flaws in the reasoning, whereas C does not mention it. So now the question is, in the passage, has the author highlighted the flaws in the reasoning of its critics? If yes, then B should be preferred over C. If no, then C should be preferred over B. Let's take it two options at a time. So between the two, you notice the passage does mention the flaws. And because the passage does mention the flaws, B becomes superior to C. Now let's look at B versus D, as some of us have chosen that as well. So what's the difference? D says that the critics believe great regression is a purely moral failing. Is that what the critics believe? Different critics consider that great regression to stem out of different things, different areas. Moral failing is only one of those points. So this does not capture the entire passage thoroughly. B will still be better, and thus D can be eliminated. We'd go ahead and choose B. So if these are the kind of questions that you struggle with, there are two things that you need to do. You need to become better at generating that overview of the passage, retention, and you need to become better at eliminating answer choices by using things like 180-degree approach and other things, and some of those other things. And then just let's not think over these all. Just try and see, is it narrow, is it broad, is it bringing in something alien? So when I look at C and D, I find them to be narrow as compared to B. And that is why we could eliminate C and D and choose B. And with that, let me give you the next one. Here you go. So go to the second paragraph, use the seeker, go to the second paragraph, and then come back. Sushrita, let's work on main idea questions someday. I'll go ahead and talk about it there then. Whoa, Rashmi, you've solved your first RC here. Man, you'll remember me for the rest of your life. You know, I am the one who took you through your first RC passage. And I hope that you enjoy the process too. So in case you have not subscribed to our YouTube channel, do that, because we keep bringing in tons of such stuff for you, which will be very helpful for you in the exam. Okay guys, overall question number 3, the second question based on the passage. Tell me what you think. Okay. So रश्मि अपना पहला आरसी पैसेज अटेम्प्ट कर रही है और वो सबसे पहले आंसर्स भी दे रही है. Come to think of it. So you just need to go back to the second paragraph. The second paragraph talks about, by traditional standards, the rise of childish sensibilities represent dysfunction and danger. Rejection of autonomy, mental illness, whatever. But then it also goes ahead and talks about Sigmund Freud, who reframed regression in psychological terms. Self-sabotage resulting from unresolved trauma. So both forms are poles apart. Can we say that they are poles apart? Poles apart is when two things are opposites. So they're not stated as opposites. So A gets eliminated. Both forms are essentially the same. False. They are not the same. They lead to the same result though. Both forms originate from different sources, yes, but are treated similarly in the society, yes. Treated similarly in the sense that at the end of the day it is infantilization and it is looked down upon. So true. Both forms cannot coexist in society, false. They do. Both the forms do exist together in the society. So it's obviously false. So you notice B and D are false, C is true, so we'd go ahead and mark that as our answer. So that's how you'd go ahead and look at inference-based questions. So that is what I had brought for you. It was fabulous to have you today. If you enjoyed working with me, don't forget to like the session. It will also encourage me to create more such sessions for you. In case you want me to focus on some specific areas, do share those things in the chat and I would love to do that. Additionally, if you need to discuss some more things, reach out to us in our Facebook group. You can tag me there. I'm also a part and I would love to get back to you as and when I can. So that's it from me today. Keep working hard and don't forget to subscribe to the channel so that you get a notification. And press the bell icon here so that you start getting a notification for each one of those sessions as well. So that's it from me today. I look forward to meeting you guys soon again in the batches, in the regular classes, as well as on our YouTube channel and elsewhere. I was just talking to some of you on our Facebook group where I thought that some of you said that you can do with a session on setting goals and getting them. So I can probably create it as a series of sessions and we can put it here on the YouTube channel, or maybe run a live iteration and run it as a workshop. We'd see. But once again, it was a pleasure meeting you today. You're a fabulous bunch who's able to deal with even the challenging passages with relative ease. It tells me that I need to bring you some tougher stuff. So I'll keep that in mind when I meet you next. Have a nice evening. I'll see you later. Catch you some other day.